I need to ask a question here. It's not a testing. You know, you gotta do this thing. Hello, hello. Oh yeah, right. So did somebody actually do something like crypto coin? We don't need charity, we need justice. Or we don't want charity, we want justice. And so then you decided to play a psyop and get rid of all the books on justice. And then when I actually found them, all of a sudden the tax on the crypto you ran concurrent to disappearing the receipt for that transaction is we don't need charity. No one ever loved you. No one ever loved you. So you were going to what? How did... Do you have any idea how fucking anti-Semitic that is? Well, this is even crazier. According to the Contracts Clause in Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, state legislators are not allowed to pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts. The federal government is similarly constrained by other constitutional provisions. Yet the New Deal Congress paid no attention to that constraint when it rescinded all gold clauses. Why am I reading this? Because apparently there was a case in 1993 where after 6 decades, they retroactively passed a law concerning laws earlier passed by Congress that were unconstitutional. Returning. In the process, Congress flouted 3 of the central premises underlying the ban on impairment of contracts. First, the principle of private autonomy. Respect for the rights of each individual means that all persons must be at liberty to dispose of their property and their labor as they wish. By allowing people to order their affairs through contract without government intervention, the Constitution fosters individual self-determination. When government abrogates private contracts, it intrudes upon personal liberty. This is why the framers crafted the Contracts Clause, to promote personal liberty by grounding economic transactions on the right of free exchange, insulated from legislative pressures and the impulses of temporal majorities. Second, the rule of law ideal. Government must announce its rules in advance, avoid applying the rules retroactively, and ensure equal treatment under the law. As a result, individuals will be able to predict with fair certainty how each rule will be implemented and plan their affairs accordingly. If existing contracts are altered by government edict, planning by private actors will be undermined. If rules are applied selectively or discriminatorily, the potential for abuse is obvious. Legislators will be tempted to use the coercive power of government to advance the interest of those with political muscle or exact retribution against unpopular groups. Third, the separation of powers principle. The Contracts Clause was designed in part as a check against concentrated government power. Under our system of government, the legislator's task is to address broad political issues prospectively, not to examine in specific cases whether the laws have been properly applied and obeyed. The judiciary's function is to review individual cases after the fact, but not to design prospective rules that address questions of policy. In that sense, the Contracts Clause prevents the legislature from assuming the institutional role of the courts, reserving to the judiciary the job of resolving individual contractual disputes. In 1933, President Roosevelt and the Congress ignored the Constitution. 2 years later, the Supreme Court, supposedly our final bulwark against the abuse of legislative and executive power, gave its stamp of approval. But the court's 1935 decision in the Gold Clause cases wouldn't be the last time the judiciary sanctioned the retroactive revision of private contracts. Indeed, since the New Deal, the Supreme Court has denied virtually every Contracts Clause claim presented to it. For the root of the problem, however, we must go back to 1934, 1 year prior to the Gold Clause cases. That is when the court decided Home Building and Loan Association versus Bladesdell, the case that set the stage for the Gold Clause cases and much of the mischief that followed. Oh, here you go. The resultant moral and legal dilemma had been crystallized pithily by Marcus Tullius Cicero nearly 2,000 years earlier. What is the meaning, Cicero had asked, of an abolition of debts, except that you may buy a farm with my money, that you have the farm, and I have not my money? Where's my 13th fucking amendment? Where's my 14th amendment? Where's my 5th amendment? We'll start there.